Canada's become a hub for terrorists, money launderers, and organized crime. How did we get here? There's a lot of answers to that. The main one, though, is progressivism. We're so progressive that we've progressed to progressing to literal terrorists, organized crime members, and third world ideologies. This comes on the back of the bombshell story coming to the U.S. State Department that 2 Canadians were hired in a sort of murder assassination plot by an Iranian IRGC, drug trafficker, terrorist conduit, whatever you want to call him, to kill Iranian dissidents in Maryland. Now, remember, killing Iranian dissidents is something that has happened before across the world, especially in Canada. This is not a philosophical exercise in Canada, especially not for me. I lost a friend, many a mean, to an IRGC assassination plot back in 2020, where he was killed in his home in highly suspicious circumstances that even the judge ruled there's something more than a murder plot going on here. Okay. How do we get here? One, appeasement of evil. Justin Trudeau promised to list the IRGC as a terrorist organization in 2018, has not done so. Subsequently, they murdered a Canadian-Iranian, Saeed Khafsamani, in Iran, and, he committed suicide in his jail cell. They just murdered him to see what they could get away with. They learned they could get away with that. In 2020, again, they committed a terrorist attack. The IRGC shot down PS 752, killing over 55 Canadian citizens and some permanent residents. Again, not even a slap on the wrist. Trudeau went and bowed to Javad Zarif, the propaganda minister for the regime. And it's not just the IRGC that is a hub in Canada. Do you not remember the CCP election interference scandal from like 6 months ago? That was huge, but that we've all just ignored because there's been many more scandals coming down the pipeline. The real problem here is, yes, there is this enabling of these, international terrorist organizations or nefarious government actors in our country, and there's nothing really being done to prevent them. That is a problem. But there is a wider problem of the complete societal breakdown that these organizations can take advantage of. This is where you get, organized crime by international entities rampaging through Canada. The best example is like car theft. All right, we have a new car theft problem. It's getting worse and worse and worse because people can steal cars with impunity. Right? The thieves have learned that if you steal the cars and you drive over like 200 kilometers an hour, it's just not worth it. The cops don't deem it safe to chase you. And if you do get caught, it's a slap on the wrist. So what's happened here? Well, one of the things that we all kind of know, or any security analyst knows about this, is these crime syndicates, right, where you have to steal cars and then sell them and stuff like this, these sort of, organized crime things, they're being taken over by international criminal organizations. And why wouldn't they? Like, if you're Hezbollah and the IRGC affiliate here, why wouldn't you set up an organized crime ring in Canada? Like, there are no consequences to it. The government doesn't want to say Hezbollah is real. So if you're, an international mafia or an international terrorist organization, and you need to run dark money to fund your propaganda campaigns in the West, why wouldn't you set up an organized crime chop shop, right? That money's completely off the books and no one can track it, and it can go wherever you want it to. And we know this. We know that, organized crime and international terrorist syndicates are setting up shop in Canada because it's easy, because we've gone to depolicing. It's catch and release. So what happens? Criminals learn this. And then the pathway to become a career criminal in this abysmal economy is even better. And who's going to finance this? Well, it's going to be international criminal organizations with the funds and infrastructure to do this. And if they're not going to be confronted in the slightest bit by the Canadian government, why wouldn't they? I mean, if you're an international terrorist organization and you need to make money and fund your criminal activities and your terrorist activities worldwide, come to Canada. Free reign, guys. You can set up. We won't even acknowledge you exist because that's a hard conversation. Whoa, no one's willing to have that. And then if you're caught, what's the punishment for what? Running an international criminal organization? A year in jail, maybe a year if you're lucky, and then you might go to just claim you're native or trans, and you'll be sent to a healing lodge. What's the downside here, right? And we have a society run by a moron where we think that we can just ignore problems and have some highly academic solutions to them, right? We can bring in a sociologist to say, well, why do people steal cars? Here's the 5 points of whatever, oppression, diversity, more diversity, something oppression, and maybe criminal behavior. That might be predicting of this. But this has real consequences for my friend Mehdi Amin and his family. Murdered with impunity, right? You see the Hells Angels, now a criminal syndicate, getting in bed with international terrorist organizations in the IRGC for clandestine murder operations. Why wouldn't they? It's a booming business in Canada. It's a great business to get into. International criminal organizations and terrorism. We have no defenses to it. Absolutely none. The RCMP is asleep at the wheel. And we could shut this all down. Justin Trudeau showed the willingness to freeze people's bank accounts without a court order. But those are just for single mothers from Halifax to give $50 to the trucking protest. It's not for the billions of dollars being laundered by the CCP or the IRGC throughout our country, used to fund criminal activity inside this very country. No. That we are unwilling to do anything about it. So, in short, there is a giant welcome to Canada sign for every terrorist, money launderer, and organized crime lord in the world. And until we wake up and go to a point where, you know what? Crimes should be punished. People should go to jail if they commit crimes. And organizations that are openly hostile towards Canada need to be banned from Canada. It's a very simple solution. But we refuse to do both. In fact, we double down on making things easier and easier for terrorists, criminals, and money launderers. So we get more terrorists, criminals, and money launderers. It's a pretty easy calculus. And until 2025, when Justin Trudeau gets kicked out of office, this is going to get worse and worse and worse, because part of the fundamental ideology of Trudeau's Liberal Party is let it all in, enable it all.